At dawn in New York City, while the streets were still cold and quiet, a delivery boy tightened his jacket, balanced a backpack heavy with food orders, and whispered a promise to himself that today he would finally be heard. Before this day ended, his voice would cross oceans, carry a nation's pride, and leave a man known for breaking dreams sitting in tears. If stories of courage, immigrants, and impossible moments inspire you, subscribe now and stay with us until the very end. Story. He was known in his neighborhood simply as Marco, the kid on a bike who always smiled even when the rain soaked his shoes and the winter wind cut through his gloves. New York had a way of making people invisible, especially those who moved quickly from door to door, handing off meals before anyone learned their name. Marco had arrived from the Philippines years earlier with his mother, carrying a small suitcase, a thick accent, and a dream he kept hidden because dreams felt dangerous when rent was due. Back home, his father had sung in community gatherings, his voice strong and steady, filling small halls with pride. When his father passed away, music became both a comfort and a wound. Marco sang quietly in his room, careful not to disturb neighbors, careful not to hope too much. Every morning before school, he worked deliveries. After school, more deliveries. The city taught him efficiency, resilience, and silence. Yet on certain nights, when the skyline glowed and traffic hummed like a restless orchestra, Marco imagined himself standing on a stage, lights warm on his face, singing not for tips but for meaning. He didn't sing pop hits like other hopefuls. What lived in his chest was older and heavier. It was the sound of his homeland, the anthem he had learned as a child, the song his mother played on national holidays while cooking, the melody that carried history, sacrifice, and survival. He never thought he would sing it in America, let alone on the biggest stage in the world. America's Got Talent auditions felt like a fantasy he watched on a cracked phone screen during breaks. Contestants came with sob stories and showmanship. Marco believed his life was too ordinary, his accent too thick, his confidence too thin. Then one afternoon, after a long shift, he delivered food to a small apartment where a television glowed with an AGT rerun. A singer stood shaking, judges skeptical, until the first note changed everything. Marco felt something unlock. That night, he filled out the audition form with trembling hands, not telling anyone. He wrote his occupation as delivery rider and almost laughed, then hit submit. Weeks later, the email arrived. Audition confirmed. His mother cried quietly, afraid to celebrate. Money was tight. Time was tighter. Marco practiced between deliveries, singing softly in stairwells and empty parks, letting the melody settle into his bones. He knew the risk. Singing his country's anthem could be misunderstood. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't in English, but it was true. And truth, he believed, had its own power. The day of the audition, Marco arrived early, his bike locked outside the massive building that felt like another universe. Inside, the energy buzzed with nerves and ambition. Performers stretched, prayed, rehearsed. Marco sat alone, backpack at his feet, eyes closed, breathing through memories of his father's voice. When his number was called, his legs felt heavy, but his heart felt clear. Walking onto the stage, the lights were blinding. The judges sat like distant silhouettes until they leaned forward. Simon Cowell's expression was unreadable, professional, guarded. The audience murmured when Marco introduced himself. A delivery boy from New York. Some smiles, some skepticism. Then Marco explained, calmly, why he was. There, he spoke of his mother, of leaving home, of carrying his country in his heart. He said he wanted to sing something that reminded him who he was. There was a pause, a risky silence. When he began to sing, the theater changed. The melody rose slowly, unfamiliar to many, but unmistakably sincere. His voice wasn't perfect in a polished way. It was raw, steady, and full of longing. Each note carried images of islands, storms, revolutions, and resilience. People who didn't understand the words felt the weight of them. The audience grew quiet, then still. The camera caught judges exchanging glances. Something unexpected was happening. Halfway through, Marco's voice grew stronger. The boy who dodged traffic for tips was gone. In his place stood a young man rooted in history, singing for millions who had left home searching for dignity. His mother watched from backstage, hands clasped, tears streaming as she recognized the strength in his tone, the strength she had feared the world would take from him. Then the twist came. As Marco reached the final lines, the camera cut to Simon Cowell. The famously tough judge blinked rapidly, his jaw tight. He leaned back, hand to his face, visibly emotional. The song ended in silence so deep it felt sacred. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then the audience rose as one, applause crashing like a wave. Marco stood frozen, unsure if he had done something wrong or something extraordinary. Simon spoke last. His voice was softer than anyone expected. He said he had heard thousands of voices, but rarely one that carried such honesty. He admitted he didn't understand the language, but he understood the feeling. He spoke of immigrants, of sacrifice, of remembering where you come from. He said this performance wasn't just a song, it was a statement. The other judges agreed, praising Marco's courage and authenticity. Yes votes came easily. Backstage, Marco collapsed into his mother's arms, both of them laughing and crying at once. The clip went viral overnight. News outlets shared the moment. Delivery drivers recognized him. Filipinos across the world shared the video with pride. Strangers sent messages saying they felt seen. Marco returned to work the next day, still riding his bike, but something had shifted. People greeted him by name. As the competition continued, Marco faced doubts again. Critics questioned his song choice, his marketability. He struggled with nerves in later rounds. But the anthem moment stayed with him, a reminder that his voice mattered. Whether he won or not, he had already done something bigger than a trophy. He had sung a nation's soul on a foreign stage and been heard. In the finale montage, AGT replayed that first audition. The judges' reactions, the standing ovation, Simon's tears. Marco watched from the audience, hand over his heart. He thought of his father, of the boy he once was, singing quietly so no one would hear. The journey had come full circle.